I can live somewhere for free and earn income. And with the potential for the rent growth I have in this particular property, that's like more than some people make in a month working 40 hours a week. How can I ever go back to not owning some type of real estate?
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. And today I'm so excited and happy to have Donato Callahan as a guest on the show. Donato is a syndicator. He is currently house hacking. He's the co-founder and CEO of BrightInvestor.com. Donato, welcome. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're super excited to have you here. And, like I told you, for those who watch this versus listen to it, we might see some shaky cameras here. Right now in my area, we're going through a massive windstorm, so hopefully the internet will stick. But, enough about that. Why don't we talk about you a little bit, Donato? Why don't you tell our audience who you are, what you do in life, tell us about some success stories you've had, maybe, but let's start with who you are, what you do in life, and in particular real estate, if anything.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Donato Callahan, and right now I'm a geospatial analyst for the Department of Defense. I currently house hack a fourplex in St. Louis. I also do commercial multifamily syndications. So we have about 172 units, run around 16 million AUM, assets under management. Taking down another one, hopefully really quickly. We won't get too far into it, but we're on the cusp of taking down another one. And then I'm the co-founder and CEO of BrightInvestor, a tool to make real estate market research easy.
Very, very cool. Exciting. And I'm curious because I really have no idea. What does a geospatial analyst do?
Yeah, so, I can tell you some stuff, any more than that, I know. I just mentioned I have to kill you. Wouldn't want our relationship to start like that.
Please don't.
Right?
Please don't.
Yeah, but you've heard of the FBI, you've heard of the CIA. Well, I work for the NGA, and what that means is we deal a lot with maps and imagery. And so something that we might do is if there's a hurricane that hits an island off the coast of Cuba or something like that, or we might take an image of certain roads, and then wait for the hurricane to pass, then take another image of the same roads and see which roads are damaged or blocked, so we know which people don't have the ability to evacuate. Therefore, we should prioritize aid to those areas first. Or if there's operations that are being run and you need some type of geospatial support, using imagery and satellites and being the eyes of the nation to help people understand information.
Very, very cool. And how did that kind of bring you or segue into both syndications, I guess, and house hacking?
Yeah, in a way, not at all, but in another way,
okay.
I'm only in real estate because of it, it's interesting. If we can go back into it if you want to hear about it, but essentially, when I was in college, I got this scholarship, which is called the Department of Defense Smart Scholarship. And it was a really sweet gig, really. They said, you can apply, and if you win, you get all your college paid for. We'll pay you a salary while you're in school. We'll give you a paid internship and a guaranteed job when you graduate. The catch is there's an 8% acceptance rate. You're competing from college freshmen all the way to seventh year PhD students. Across the entire nation, across dozens of disciplines, and you need 5 letters of recommendation, yada, yada, yada. And as a first semester freshman in college, I'm like, I don't want to pay for school. This sounds like a good idea. We'll do this. And I ended up throwing my hat in the ring, and I won at the end of my freshman year. I was one of 3 biology majors in the U.S. to win. But because of that, I then had a guaranteed job. And so I knew, okay, rest of college, as long as I just keep my grades up and don't ruffle any feathers, I'm good. I'm on my way to the traditional career path. And so the money that I was saving, I'm not really a big spender. So I was taking that money and I was saving it until I eventually, put money in the stock market January 2020, only to lose half of it in March 2020. And I realized Yep, right when COVID hit, and then that's when I asked the question that all investors or entrepreneurs think of, which is there has to be a better way, and which led me to real estate, and started a wholesaling company, which I operated the entirety of my senior year of college, and which eventually led me into getting connected with people who did syndication, which connected me to people who recommended house hacking, which ended up just me listening to other people's lessons and what they wish they would have done when they were younger, and saying, "Great, I'll just go do that." And go to the big stuff and get to where I'm at today.
Awesome. And how, I guess, so I'm not a syndication expert by any means. We have another host on the podcast that has a syndication specific like episode every Thursday. But I'm curious how things are going like in the current like lending environment, the current real estate environment, right? It sounds like you're taking down another deal, but interest rates are all over the place or seemingly changing more rapidly and frequently than we've ever seen before, which could affect, syndications and things like that. How do you folks, I guess, look at the current kind of environment in general? Obviously, it's not stopping you since you're talking about taking down another deal, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so we look at it cautiously. And what that means is, with interest rates going up, bridge debt or that short-term debt is becoming less and less attractive, especially unless you want to shell out the cash for a rate cap, which most people who are using bridge debt right now are doing. But the fluctuations in interest rates are making bridge debt less and less attractive, and people are looking more for anything they can get with a fixed rate. But that higher fixed rate stuff is still pretty expensive when it comes to making a deal work. And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of the deals that are getting done are getting a bit more creative. So we're looking at things that have either a seller finance component to it, or even better, like an assumable loan. That's ideally like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac product that's still rocking that, maybe 3 to 4% range of interest rates, that has a couple years left of IO period or interest only period. We can then step into and then get a supplemental or do some pref equity on the side to help raise the rest of our CapEx costs. So we're having to be hyper conservative. And so when it comes to our deal flow right now, we are underwriting everything as like, what is the worst possible case scenario for this deal to it still work? And if we can get that real worst case scenario in there and it still works, then we're comfortable moving forward. Because even in our worst case scenario, we account for the fact that we do a horrible takeover, our implementation plan of our renovation strategies, it doesn't work at all. And if you look at our team, who has like 20 years experience of doing this, thousands of units of proven track record, that's not likely to happen. But all that's to say, we're looking very cautiously at what deals we take down, where we're buying the deals, including making sure we're in the right locations that are still trending up, and also buying in proximity to assets we already have existing, so we can leverage the payroll, we can leverage the teams that are already existing on those other assets and spread them across the asset we're hoping to take down.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, you've done that, so you're in syndication, you talked about wholesaling, your house hacking as well. That's already at least 3 of the well-known real estate investing strategies. I don't know that we'll have time to dive into each one of those, but I'm curious you have like a favorite success story of yours that you like to kind of, talk about, share with folks. What story would that be if you had like a favorite success story to tell?
Specifically to real estate or more in general?
Not necessarily, but if you're a lot of our guests, it is real estate related, but it's not, strictly speaking, it does not have to be the case. Okay.
I would say getting that scholarship my freshman year was definitely a really big turning point and a win. I had been like a valedictorian of my high school. I was always really focused on grades and academic performance, and that was just what I was laser focused on. Didn't have time for other things. And going into first semester freshman and being able to compete with some of the top minds, in the country, and being able to win that scholarship was such like a validating moment of, yes, I did it, I'm here.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, it was, I'm here. I'm 18 years old. I just got, what the dream is, right? I got the guaranteed job with the government, super secure. I did it. I'm 18. Yeah. What now? So it was also this really big moment of I still have a lot of gas in the tank. What am I going to do now that will not only help me grow, but reinvest back into the people around me, the communities around me, and the hobbies that I have? So that was definitely one of my biggest success stories. And And then probably buying my house hack was awesome. I bought it at great location, St. Louis, at a fixed like 2.375% interest rate. And when I got here, the units were like 1,200 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath shotgun styles, right? And the renters hadn't had a rent increase in like a decade. And so someone was renting it for like $450. Wow. When the market was like 1,000 to 1,200.
Yeah.
So when I bought it with how low my interest rate was, even at that $500 over a unit cost, I was breaking even. And so now I'm on my track right now via unit upgrades and turning over. I'm doing another one next month. It's on track to not only help me live for free, but cash flow around $1,800 to $2,000 a month on top of that. So really, really fun. Great first house hack. That's why I recommend it to everybody that I talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who are hesitant to jump into house hacking, I hope this story is enough to convince you otherwise and to go for it. What would you say? Those are amazing, kind of success stories of yours there, Donato. What would you say you learned, through each of them? If there's like one thing that you could pinpoint as, I really learned this one thing, either through winning that scholarship or maybe the house hack and cash flowing a house hack today. I don't know.
Yeah, so with the scholarship, I would say life's what you make it, and the opportunities only bear fruit if you take them. I remember vividly being at the library and looking through different scholarship applications and trying to find a way where, hey, I don't want to be saddled with debt. I want to ensure that I have a good start coming out of college. I listen to the horror stories, and looking at this scholarship, it's a DoD Smart Scholarship, and I'm reading through all the requirements and like, oh man, I just got to college 2 months ago. I have no business applying for this thing. And looking at the 5 letters of recommendation and all the different, it's asking you to publish have you been published? Do you have any studies? Do you have any awards? Do you have any accolades? I'm like, I don't have any of this. But deciding, you know what? Why not? Why not give it a try? And simply having that attitude of, it's an opportunity. If I take it and it doesn't work, that's okay. I gave it my best. But if I don't take it, I'm guaranteeing failure. Whereas if I do take it, it's only one of the options. Yeah. So I'm giving myself a 50% increase in possibility of me absolutely changing my life just by saying yes, or if it's easier, just not saying no and not talking myself out of an opportunity. So that definitely big lesson I took away from the scholarship. And then with the house hack, realizing that there are so many other ways to do life when it comes to traditional income earning. The first ever deal I did, the first actual closed transaction was a virtual wholesale deal when I was in Boise, and I knew somebody in St. Louis, and it ended up being there was a seller who knew a broker, the broker knew me, I knew a wholesaler, the wholesaler knew a flipper, and I connected these two people through 30 minutes of work, and I got paid $2,000. And so doing that with the house hack and realizing I don't have to pay rent somewhere. I can actually own this building. And if I do, enough due diligence into the asset and what's going on with the foundation of the property, make sure it's in a good location with, good fundamentals, I can live somewhere for free and earn income. And with the potential for the rent growth I have in this particular property, that's like more than some people make in a month working 40 hours a week. How can I ever go back to not owning some type of real estate or doing some type of passive cash flow when I understand this asset exists? It's like you close your eyes and then you open it up again and an entirely new world has shown up. You're seeing colors you've never seen before, and you're questioning if this is the world you've actually been living in, and it is. Yeah. But now you have a whole new perspective, and it changes the game.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. I'm curious because, like, for your $2,000 virtual wholesale deal, right? You had to have a lot of those dominoes to be lined up, right, for it to actually work out, right? And I wonder if, for some people, not necessarily having those lined up dominoes is the excuse for not getting started or not, taking action, I guess. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that, right? Because were you just lucky? And I'm just, I'm intentionally
you're feeding me softballs. This is great. You're feeding me softballs. Perfect. You may see some of my social media stuff, but I wholeheartedly believe, right? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. and then you got to sprinkle a little bit of consistency on top of that.
Yeah.
So the 30 minutes of work, right, came off the tail end of me operating a wholesaling company for an entire year, right? Spending close to $25,000 running this company, not making anything back, meeting all of the right people, and then happened to know the right person in St. Louis, the right person for my mastermind, and then getting connected. And then when that guy happened to be looking to sell a property, and I happened to know the right wholesaler, it was a year of preparation, building my skill set and my educational background to be able to, when the opportunity presented itself, I was prepared to take advantage of it. So it is not an overnight success. And anyone that says, oh, look at me, 30 minutes of work, 5 hours of work a week to get this done, is always on the back of years of investing their time, energy, and resources into getting themselves in that position.
So how long would you say, because that's 100% true, right? Or I should say, I agree 100% with that statement, right? There's always hours and hours and hours, if not years of hard work that typically nobody sees, and then people only see the successful end result, right? And but that person was lucky, or the cards that were dealt, his hand was better than mine, so on and so forth, but they don't see those years of work and preparation. I'm curious for you, how long was the time between when you started getting interested in real estate and started doing your research, due diligence, reading, podcasting, whatever it may be, to this virtual, wholesale deal that, got you $2,000? What was that time span like?
Yeah. So I started real estate in May of 2020. So I just finished my junior year of college, and I was going into summer, and I remember I was looking at the mastermind I was signing up for, and it had $1,000 a month to be part of the membership. And I was like, man, I was hovering my finger over the sign up button. I was like, you know what? Screw it. And I hit the button, and I ended up going for it. So basically from May until January 2021, I was operating my wholesaling company. In January, I got my first wholesaling contract. Got a property under contract, and I got it assigned for a $25,000 assignment fee. March in 2021, that deal fell apart. So I let him out of the contract. Yep. So I was like, all right, well, I'm in the whole $25,000. Great. I realized that wholesaling wasn't quite what I wanted to be. Then in about April of 2021, I got hey, I'm looking to buy a property in St. Louis. I'm looking to sell a property in St. Louis. So it's the month after that, I got the 30-minute work of connecting somebody. So it was just about a year of actual building that out before I got the first deal. And then from April 2021 to July 2021, July is when I bought my house hack. I actually bought it the morning of my 22nd birthday. I woke up, had my morning muffin, and I went to the bank and I signed my docs.
Nice.
Then July 2021 to July 2022, that's when we bought our first syndication. Another year of work there.
Exactly.
And then July 2022, great. Now we're March, and we're April 2023. We're looking to take the second one down. So there's these massive
and all of
time.
this,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I'm saying all of this is years, right? Like you're saying, right? And it's not years where you're spending, I would imagine, 5 minutes a day doing this stuff. It's probably years where you're spending hours a day, right?
Oh my gosh! So I work. I work for a living by day, right? For the DoD.
Yeah.
For a solid year, I would get out of work. I get to work at 7. I'm out of work at 3. We don't have our phones during the day, so I get out to my car. I take my phone. I have 20 missed calls. I have 80 text messages.
Wow!
And from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, I'm on meetings. I'm doing work on a new property. I'm doing the market research. I'm working with BrightInvestor. I am writing, bug reports. Yep. Literally, in just the last 2 weeks, my family will tell you, because I'm always on a meeting, 18-hour days, weeks on end, sacrificing everything, in the dark, in the corner where no one can see it, trying to build this thing that you believe in so much. It is not that easy breezy little bit of work every day. And the reason it's not is because I love this work. I love it. It is so fun. It is amazing. And yes, it rewards in the future, right? And that's great.
Yeah.
but it's so fun coming together and creating something with people and putting your head down and grinding it out and kind of going through that process together, coming out the other side cleaner and knowing that your skills are becoming more valuable. I actually just signed my first coaching client today. Actually, our first session is today, where someone's learning.
Man.
Thank you. Someone's looking to learn how to do what I do when it comes to syndication, and I focus on market research and loss to lease and running comps, and so they reached out, and I'm starting out today. But all that comes from a shameless dedication to the craft and the process. Yeah. It's crucial.
Consistency, daily work, daily activity, holding on, understanding that it's the long game, not microwave society, overnight success, and all of that. So that's awesome, man. And I mean, obviously, you've just shared a whole lot of success, but you can't be all success stories, right? I imagine, or I wonder if you have like a maybe an incredibly difficult experience that you've been through that you're okay with sharing with the audience that you could talk about.
Yeah, incredibly difficult situations or experience that I've been through. I mean, truly, in the grand scheme of things, I haven't had too much happen. I've been pretty okay for a long time, and any difficult times that I went through, especially growing up, were largely self-inflicted. When it came to the pressure to perform, or when it came to I was focusing on school and academics, I got to be the good kid, I gotta do well in school, I gotta get the good grades, I gotta look out for myself, hyper independence, I can do this thing, it's all on me, right? This unrelenting, overbearing pressure on myself to do better and be better. And it's taken a lot of time to kind of get out of the weight of my own thumb and allow myself to not only do things, but do things poorly sometimes, and understand that I'm a human and not everything is going to be the absolute best, and that's okay. But I would say that's been the more difficult situation, as that I've had to learn how to grow and walk out of as I've grown older, and shift my perspective on what it means to be productive, what it means to be valuable, and defining specifically what it is that I want out of life, and then going after that specific thing. And then there's a metaphor that I've been using recently, and if you let me to share it, I'd love to share it with you. When it comes to entrepreneurship and investing, and we'll use real estate in this case, a lot of people are on dry land, and they're looking out across the water, and they see the island, and do they want to get to that island? Financial independence, cash flow, living the life of their dreams. They want to get to that island so badly. And eventually, some people come together and they build the ship. Or somebody sails by and they have a ship and they say, let's go. And they make the biggest risk of their life and they get on the ship. And they start working towards getting to that island. And over the course of that journey, there's choppy waters, there's stormy weather, maybe a couple sea monsters thrown in, a couple of mutinies on board. But they're going to the island. And then eventually, after long last years of work, they arrive. And the 99% of entrepreneurs won't get off the boat and onto the island. They will instead stay on the boat. They won't realize the fruits of their labor. They love the process, and you have to love the process to be successful, but they go one step further and they make the process the only thing that enriches them. And so when you look back to where they were a couple of years ago, and you say, why are you doing this? It's usually for my spouse. I want to spend more time with my spouse. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to move back closer to my family. I want these hobbies I want to be able to pursue. I want to be able to live this life. And I found that a lot of entrepreneurs will create that life, and then they say, I'm just going to stay on the boat. And they keep going from island to island to island, creating more, accumulating more, generating more. And they sometimes lose sight of why they were sailing to that island in the first place. So that whole journey, and I would say the hard situation I go through, is reminding myself, hey, I'm on the boat for a reason. The goal is to get off the boat and enjoy this at some point.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because my next question was about to be what are you doing differently to make sure you do get off that boat onto that island at one point?
Sure. First and foremost, accountability partners. So people
Yeah.
who are within in my businesses and my friends and family, having those candid conversations like, hey, I am working these 18-hour days. I am not going out very often. I am, foregoing other parts of typical, young 20. I'm 23, so
Yeah.
foregoing other parts of young life to build these things. I believe in them so much. But then having the added, point of conversation with them to say, I recognize that what I'm doing now isn't sustainable for the long term, and the life that I'm living now isn't the life I want to be living in 5, 10, 15 years. I want to do these other things. And so very candidly, I had a conversation with my co-founder and said, hey, when we do this thing with BrightInvestor, and when we build this up, we have an amazing time, and after we take it for, build it for all it can be, make it all it can be worth, and whenever that time frame is done, right, you have to make sure I get off the boat. Make sure that I don't start any new projects, don't roll into a new venture, a new idea, and have that conversation with several people to know that I'm telling you, here are my priorities. I might need help remembering them when I'm on the mountaintop and I'm shining and everything's going great. Because it can be oh so easy to follow that shiny light, the next thing, until eventually it's 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and these things that were priorities never got realized. Yeah. So accountability partners are the big one, and then always having a why. Simon Sinek, right? Start with why.
100%.
Always having a very specific, I am doing X so that Y can happen. And I think if you lose that equation, if you get it to where I'm doing X so that, I just feel good. No. The goal is to get on the boat and then get off the boat. Get off the boat eventually. Get off the boat. And so having that very specific X and Y is crucial, I think, to living that kind of life that's in line with the priorities that you say you have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just, I always fear that, at some point, one might be too close to it all to understand or see that it is the time to get off the boat. And to your point, right, if you have the right people around you to hold you accountable and remind you of what you asked them to remind you of, right, then hopefully that'll kind of open up, one's eyes to make sure they do go to enjoy that island that they've been working so hard to get to, right? So, and you said you're 23, right, which is, crazy young. If you could go back in time, I guess there's not a whole lot of time that you could go back into, but what is there anything you would do differently, or what would you do differently maybe to fast track getting to that island, if we continue with the analogy, right, or to fast track any part of your various success stories? Would you do anything different?
I'd go back to the ripe age of 10. I just was really messing around in 5th grade.
Come on, man.
He had no idea what he was doing. I would say a little bit when I was in school, definitely in high school. So much of my focus was in academics. I would have liked to go back and say, hey, school isn't going to be everything. And everything I did got me to where I'm at, so the obligatory, I wouldn't change anything. But acknowledging the fact that, hey, you're working so hard in school, but let's also look into why you're working so hard in school and ask myself those questions more. Like, okay, you want to do well in school so you can get to a good college, you can get a good job. Okay, why do you want that? And starting to really get more introspective from a younger age, I think would have allowed me to relieve some of that pressure on myself and still work hard, but more clearly define why I was doing everything that I was doing. Because for so many years, it was just, I just need to do this because I'm supposed to do this. Because I'm supposed to do this. Which was not satisfying at all. It kind of left you with this always, I need to do a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's also a hard thing to ask a young kid to do, right? To be introspective, right? First of all, they probably don't even know that word, but then to understand the concept of what it means. But in any case, you've done well so far, so that's pretty awesome. And I'm curious if I ask you, what is your key, your secret, the key that unlocked all of this, success that you've had so far for you? What would that be?
OPM. No, not in the real estate way of other people's money. No. OPM, other people's mistakes. Now, I'm going to say that, and some people will say it wasn't a mistake because I learned from it, and I agree. Now, it's just an acronym to summarize the greater point I'm making. If I talk to 10 people, and they all have been doing this 10 years longer than I have, and I say, if you could go back to when you're my age, what would you be doing? Or what's the biggest thing you can attribute your success to? What's the biggest thing that detracted from your success? If I talk to 10 people who've been doing this for 10 years each, and I take those lessons to heart, I now have 100 years of combined experience guiding what my next decision is. And so what I did was talk to every adult I could find and say, you have this type of life, you make this income, you are at this happiness level according to your own reporting, you want to be doing this is how you got here. Talk to me about that. How did you get to where you're at? And then I would gauge. And I'd say, okay, this person went to college, did this, got this debt, achieved this by this age, and doing this, and this is what their life looks like now. And I would just have dozens and dozens and dozens of little timelines built out in my mind. And so I could understand, okay, if I want to live this life, the people who are most doing what I want to be doing now went this path. Okay, let me go ahead and take a look at what they're doing. And after iterating that so many times and listening to other people's lessons, going back in time, listening to what they wish they would have done, what they've seen, what they've gathered, one of the biggest things people told me to do was house hack. Every single real estate person I talked to was saying, go house hack. It is such a great wealth builder. And so I was like, okay, and I did it. And then you go talk to other real estate professionals, for example, and they go from maybe wholesaling and flipping to rentals to maybe Airbnbs to self-storage and commercial multifamily syndication. There's this kind of like growth over time. And they're like, okay, well, I talk to people and the biggest lesson they have is don't be afraid to keep growing and don't be afraid to get to the bigger and bigger stuff. Like, okay, well, what if I just do the bigger stuff now instead of going through all the processes? Can I do that? The answer is yes, you can. And then when it came to like school and personal life, people saying, look, your reputation is gold. Treat others the way that they want to be treated. Be dependable, be consistent, be reliant. Manage your emotions, be professional, be truthful and honest with people, but keep in mind that everyone else is a person. They have their own lives going on. They have, your best day could be their worst day. And keeping that in mind, all these social and interpersonal lessons accumulate as well. And so I would say the biggest secret to my success is finding other people, hearing what worked for them and what didn't work for them, plotting that map, and then following it. Trusting in the guidance and wisdom and experience of others on a massive societal level to chart the path.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe you already answered this, but I'm curious, when you encounter or just, talk to people that are maybe trying to get started in, whatever their endeavor is. Let's just say it's real estate, right? They want to invest in real estate and they're kind of stuck, analysis paralysis or kind of glass half empty mindset. Say, I wasn't dealt the right hand of cards or whatever. When you encounter people like that, right? What do you tell them? What actions can they take to start making progress, right?
Sure. The first thing I would say is accept their reality. So when I've had moments where people reach out to me on Facebook and they're saying, hey, I see you're in St. Louis, you're doing real estate, can I come pick your brain? Yeah. And I would say, sure. And I'd go into a cafe and I'd talk to them and I'd say, what's going on in your life? And they'd say, well, I've got this, got a kid in the way and I'm working this job and I've got a little bit of money saved, we're trying to do this. And I say, okay, that's all really hard. That is a tough situation. That is not easy to work with. So first, instead of just glossing right over the hardships people have, acknowledge that they exist and acknowledge that we're not all starting off in the same playing field. And just because we're not on the same playing field doesn't mean you have to throw blame or throw privilege on certain individuals. But it just means I'm acknowledging that where you're starting from or where you're at is different than where I'm at right now. But we're still going to find a way to get you successful if that's what you want to do. And then second question, I'd say, if you do nothing, what happens? Like, right, you're saying that it's too hard, right? Even if you accept that it's hard, yes, it's not going to be easy, but if you do nothing, what is the consequence of that action?
Yeah.
Because, as I'm sure you're well aware, the pain of staying the same has to be more than the pain of changing for any realistic growth to occur. And so I find that bringing that up to saying, you're right, it's hard, but if you do nothing and you don't do, investing or real estate, what life are you then saying I want to build?
Yeah.
You're saying I want to build paycheck to paycheck. I want to be financially insecure. I want to be at the privy or at the the decisions of another person, my boss, deciding whether or not I can take my kids on a vacation. If you're saying no to the hard stuff, you are saying yes to the consequences of easy. Once I've laid that out, I will walk them through specifically, here's where I started. Here's the lessons that I learned along the way. Here's all the resources that I had. Read these books, go on these forums, talk to these people, ask these questions. Here's my contact information. You contact me if you have questions. I'll follow up every 3 months. The guy that I had to talk to coffee, don't hear from him for 3 months. 3 months later, he hits me up saying, hey, I want to let you know I've started saving more money. I picked up some more shifts. Me and my wife got together. We have this plan to move forward and buy some real estate. And I want to say thank you so much for the time. And it all comes down to just treating people like people, acknowledging their origins, identifying what happens if they decide to stay on the path they're currently on, and giving them a bridge that they can walk over to the life that they say they want. And then the hardest thing from my perspective, and yours as well as someone who has this awesome podcast, is letting people make the choice they want to make. Yep. Even if it's not the one you think it's best for them, having to let people either choose to pick it up, that is your guidance in your education, right? People can either choose to pick it up, learn how to use it to craft the life they want, or they have a hard look at themselves and realize that they're not going to do it. And that's really painful for people like ourselves who are trying to provide more value back. But at the end of the day, it is their life, and we have to allow individuals to choose or not choose what's best for them.
100%. Couldn't agree more. We can't make decisions for other people, right? They have to make their own decisions. That's super powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to try to get you out of here because I want to be mindful of your time here. I really appreciate it. So I got a few more questions here for you, Donato. I'm curious if you talked about books a minute ago. Do you have a book recommendation for our audience that you'd recommend they pick up?
Yeah, for sure. So recently I've been doing a lot of looking into books from marketing when it comes to BrightInvestor. So those are fresh on my mind. I would say How to Build a Story Brand. Crucial. Yep. Crucial book. And by and large, biggest takeaway is people are the heroes. And everyone is the hero of their own story. So you need to create a brand and a product and a marketing campaign around the fact that it's their success. You're helping them get it.
Yep.
And then I'd also say Hormozi's 100 Million Offers, crucial book, super valuable. Plus, it's really a recent book too. So there are great books like Think and Grow Rich that are still really applicable, but they have some decades on them at this point. That's a great book that's recently come out that very useful. Same kind of lane as 100 Story Brand as far as marketing and how can you help craft as much value as possible for your business.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those. And typically now is where we ask our guests here to share a tool or piece of software, an app that they like to use to kind of help them achieve success. I think today we're going to segue off of that or jump off of that and maybe talk a little bit about BrightInvestor because we haven't really touched on what that is and what that awesome project of yours is.
Thank you. Yeah, let's go right into it. Happy to do so. It is a tool that our team has been building for the last 18 months. And the goal is to help make real estate market research easy so you can know any market like the back of your hand. Because when it comes to real estate, this is where I get really hyped. This is what I really like to talk about. Golden rule is location, location, location. It has been forever and it always will be. Forever. It's as simple as when if I'm going on vacation, where do you want to go on vacation? Somewhere sunny. Okay, so you go on vacation based on location. Great. Or if you're buying a house, right? Great. I want to buy, I talk to my colleagues, right? I want to buy a house. It can't be on a double yellow road with high traffic. It can't be on a corner. And the first 10 things they list for what their house have to have are based on the location. Not even what the house is or what it isn't, just what's the location like. And it's always true for investing, because when you buy a property, you're not just buying the brick and mortar. You are buying the community. You are buying the neighbors. You are buying the local businesses. You are buying the population and growth trends of the industry. You are buying Fortune 500 company investments into that city. You are buying the living, breathing entity that is the area around your property. The difficult part is when I live in St. Louis and I'm buying syndications in Texas, I don't know what's going on down there. I have no idea. Now, I could call some realtors and maybe they have information for me, maybe they don't. Maybe they have my best interest at heart, maybe they don't. I could spend 20 or 30 hours looking to find valid information on the internet, and I'll spend hundreds of dollars, and I might not know if the information is reliable or not, or the data may not exist or not. And I could waste a lot of time doing all that analysis that by the end of it, I have all this data, but nothing I can take action on. I have all this stuff floating in my brain that I don't know how to actually apply. Or I'm so burnt out from all that research, I don't have the energy to then go find the deal and work a deal. That is where BrightInvestor lives and breathes.
I love it.
So what we do, yeah, it's awesome.
I wish you guys
love
were
it so
around
much.
a few years ago when I started, because I went through all that mind-numbing research to pick my market. So
That's the thing. So many investors know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to this process, and even home buyers too. Like, hey, I'm trying to move across the country with my kids, and I need to know what's going on here. Everyone has this problem of not knowing what's happening on the other side of the pond, and knowing that they need to make a decision remotely, because not everyone can afford to get up and fly down to a market they're trying to buy in every couple of weeks and meet those connections and understand what's happening. They need reliable data that's easy to interpret now. That's what BrightInvestor does. And so we're launching in just about 2 weeks, and we show people things like the population growth, job growth, not only jobs overall, but also jobs by industry, so you can see which are the dominant market players in any metropolitan area. We show you the appreciation trends based off median and average sales prices, so you can see how individual zip codes are performing historically when it comes to appreciation. We show you local schools and their rankings and how they're performing. We show you businesses. We also show you crime, and not only crime risk at the city level, but actually pinpoint by pinpoint pins of what crimes are happening around any address you search. It's awesome. It's so cool.
it sounds like it. I can't wait. I've already told you this, right? We talked before we hit record here. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Maybe I'll start looking for new markets to invest in.
It's awesome, man. And then we've been adding this feature, so now you can upload your own list of properties to the platform, like via CSV or something, and you can overlay it with all the data we have. And so if I can see, here's a heat map of the crime, and here's where the good schools are, and here's where the businesses are, and this is in a high appreciating zip code, drop your property list on top of that. Now I can pinpoint which properties in the best locations that I want, select that property, and then export it by itself, and go take that to my mailer or my dialer or my texter. They
Very cool.
Hours saved. Yeah, it's I just get hyped. It's awesome. I'm so excited for it.
Plus, you're in St. Louis, right? You said you're located in St. Louis, right? So I think that's a pretty good testing ground for an app like this, because St. Louis has very neighborhood to neighborhood dependent, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, St. Louis has a long history of being like great on one side of the street, not so great on the other side of the street. And even though St. Louis, I still think it's a good market, people will be hesitant to invest here because they don't have that granular level data that supports their decision making. And at the end of the day, it's about one thing. It's about peace of mind. It's about your confidence. It's about your ability to rest easy at night. Can I use a system that I believe in, make an informed choice, and then go to bed and sleep easy knowing that I made the right choice?
I love it. So with that said, where can people get their hands on BrightInvestor?
Yes. So first off, go to www.brightinvestor.com. That is our homepage. And then right now, because we're pre-launch, you click the button in the top right of the page, or one of the buttons we have on the homepage. It says join the waitlist. Click that button, drop your email address, and you'll be the first to know the second we hit go live on our launch date, and you'll receive exclusive notifications, and you get a free gift for signing up. So go sign up for our waitlist, exclusive access, free gift. Check us out.
Awesome. Everybody go sign up, BrightInvestor.com. Thanks for that. How else can our audience help you, Donato, and where do you want them to reach out, if at all?
Yeah, sure. So on our website, you can contact with me or my team via our chat bubble on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, or you can reach out to us on social media. We have an Instagram account called BrightInvestor Official, and you can reach out to me personally at Donato_Callahan on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Donato, for your time. Really appreciate you spending the time with us and our audience here, and I look forward to hearing more success stories of yours, as well as seeing where BrightInvestor goes in a couple of weeks when we can get our hands on it.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.